Hello guys, you're welcome once again to this channel. It's been a long while, quite a long while. However it is, I want to thank all my subscribers, all my viewers and returning viewers. I want to thank you at this point in time for joining me as we discuss about this important blood factor that can affect us in marriage. Apart from knowing our genotype, it is also important you know about this factor that can affect people. There are situations whereby a woman, after giving birth in the first pregnancy and the baby is okay, subsequent pregnancies, the baby will either die before delivery, during delivery, or immediately after delivery. So you want to know about this and why it is happening. Some of those things that happen may be because of this very blood factor, which most people used to neglect. So I want to thank you and I want to wish that you will listen to the end of this video to understand about this important blood factor. I still want to plead with all of you, please, I plead with all of you to subscribe to this channel. Like what you are doing. If what you are doing is likable and you like it, please like it. Then drop your comments, your questions on the comment section. And then possibly share this video so that other people can learn about it, because these are some of the things that affect people in the society. Kindly follow this step. Follow this step now to know how to subscribe to this channel. If you have not done so, I plead with you, just subscribe and then turn on the notification button so that anytime I'm going to post any video on this channel, you'll be receiving my videos. Thank you so much as you do that. Thank you so much. So you're welcome to this channel once again. I want to thank you for joining me. So as we're discussing about this blood part that we should know before we think about getting married, or possibly before we become pregnant. Before any lady should become pregnant, every lady should know about this. Likewise, every adult male should know about it, because it's going to affect the subsequent pregnancies. Now, the normal thing is that we should know about our genotype before we even consider getting married or not. So I will know whether we are AS, whether we are AA. But there is also another factor which you should know about that may affect you in your marriage and affect the babies that you may give birth to. This is the thing we're going to talk about on this very video. Now, there are some technologies that I want us to discuss before we go into the full details in this discussion. Number one is Rhesus factor, which is the bedrock of our discussion. Rhesus factor. Now, before we talk about Rhesus factor, we should know about blood. What should we know about blood is that the blood has two components, basically two components: the water part, or the plasma, and then the cellular part. Now, the cellular part has different types. You have the white blood cells, red blood cell, and the platelet. So when we're talking about Rhesus factor, we are in particular about the red blood cell. Now, basically, a typical cell, a normal cell, should have a membrane. A membrane is like the outermost envelope of a cell, and then the inner component. So in a red blood cell, you have the membrane, which is the outermost part, and then you have the innermost part, where you have the hemoglobin. So in a cell, or in a red blood cell rather, that you have the membrane, you have a factor outside of it, an antigen on top of that membrane. And one of those antigens or protein outside of that red blood cell is called a Rhesus factor. So an individual that has that kind of antigen in their red blood cell membrane, they will now be classified as either blood group A, blood group B positive, A positive, O positive, or AB positive. But an individual whose red blood cell does not have that kind of antigen will be classified as O negative, B negative, A negative, as stuff like that. So these are the things I want you to understand on this first part. The other thing you have to also understand is Rhesus incompatibility. Now, when we talk about Rhesus incompatibility, what are we discussing about? We are trying to say that an individual, especially a woman, that is Rhesus negative, that is a woman, for instance, blood group O negative, has received a blood that is O positive. That's a woman that is O negative has received a blood that is O positive. So in that institution, in that case now, the woman is now described as having a syndrome, a case of Rhesus incompatibility. That is what it is. Now, when we talk about Rhesus isoimmunization, we are trying to say, what we are trying to say is that that same person, that woman that is Rhesus negative, is now producing antibodies against that very blood that has entered into the system. Antibodies are like security officers. They are like armies and soldiers trying to protect our bodies. So when an antigen is a protein that has entered into our system. When any antigen enters our system will begin to produce these antibodies to fight against them. So at any time that kind of thing happens, the antibodies will clear them. That is a kind of immunization. It's a natural way of immunizing us. Do you understand? So we have understood this basic concept. Now, why are we discussing about it? Because of the complications. That is the side effect of not knowing about this before becoming pregnant. A situation whereby a woman that is Rhesus negative is now carrying a baby that is Rhesus positive. That baby that woman is going to carry, there won't be any problem. The woman is going to deliver the baby normally, and baby will be okay. But the subsequent or the next pregnancies the woman is going to carry will be having issues, because the body of that woman is already having antibodies from that baby that woman has given. So because of that, those antibodies will now begin to attack the red blood cell of those babies that will now come after the first baby. Understand this thing is not spiritual. This is not a spiritual attack. It is a natural phenomenon. So what are we going to do? Because that is the bedrock of this discussion. What are we going to do? Number one is to know about it. What are the causes of this thing? The cause is that a woman that is Rhesus negative has now received blood from somebody that is Rhesus positive. That is one cause, blood transfusion. So giving a woman that is Rhesus negative a blood that is Rhesus positive is one of the causes. Or a woman that is Rhesus negative carrying a baby that is Rhesus positive, and then after delivery, or the woman now has miscarriage. That miscarriage will cause blood to enter the woman, and that will result in Rhesus isoimmunization. There could be also what is called abruption of the placenta, whereby the placenta, that is the tissue that helps in exchange of substances between the mother and the baby, has separated small from the baby, from the mother, and that can cause the blood from the baby to enter into the woman and then stimulate the woman to start producing antibodies that affect the next babies that will come after the index pregnancy. These are some of the causes of this Rhesus isoimmunization. So you must know about your Rhesus factor, whether you're Rhesus negative or whether you're Rhesus positive, before you get pregnant, as well as you know your genotype. It's very, very important that you know these two things. Now, what are we going to do in a case whereby a woman is now Rhesus negative and then the husband is Rhesus positive? What we should do is that the woman, after giving birth, within the first 72 hours of giving birth, that woman should receive a drug that is called Rogam. That Rogam is like an inhibitor. So it's a drug that will stop that woman from producing antibodies that will affect the next pregnancies. Or a woman that is now Rhesus negative has miscarriage. If a woman that is negative has miscarriage, that woman should receive within the first 72 hours the same drug that is called Rogam. Or a woman that is Rhesus negative is bleeding while she is pregnant should also receive within the first 72 hours that same Rogam, so that the woman will not produce antibodies against the next pregnancies. That should be done within the first 72 hours. That is the first 3 days. Now, in a situation whereby this thing we are discussing about, that is giving Rogam in the first 72 hours, is not done, what can we do? What we do is that woman should book in a good facility, in a good center, with a good obstetrician that is monitoring the woman and the baby that is inside, and also should book in a center that has good obstetrician and a good neonatologist. Because when you're going to deliver the baby, likely thing that will happen in the next pregnancy is that there is a syndrome that is called hydrophytalis, meaning that the baby will be bloated. Baby will be bloated with water, because the mother's antibodies is attacking the baby and destroying the red blood cells of the baby, and it can affect the liver of the next or subsequent babies. The baby will be bloated, become so big while in the womb. So what may happen is that the neonatologist is likely going to exchange or remove all the blood in that baby and give the baby a new blood. That will make the baby to stay alive, otherwise the baby will die. So that is why you see some people, after giving birth in the first pregnancy, the baby will be okay. In the subsequent pregnancies, the baby will die some days before labor or after giving birth, or while the baby is being given birth to. So we must know how these things occur and know how to prevent. That is the essence of this video. Please, I want you to subscribe to this channel and then share this video so that other people can learn about this, because it's important that we know about this in our society. I want to thank you so much for listening and following up this video. Thank you so much.